speaking candidly about the reality they face in the current political climate.
The person said, I know where you live and I know where your children go to school.
In a recent online forum, several shared some of the shocking threats they've faced.
I hope you lose your life by lunchtime, you worthless whore. The best way you could help America is to eat a bullet.
When the Supreme Court ruled against some of President Trump's tariffs last month, he immediately attacked the justices, including two he appointed.
They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth, the two of them.
Over the past 10 years, Trump has repeatedly attacked the bench.
This judge is giving us unfair rulings. Now I say why. I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family. We cannot allow a handful of communist, radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws. It's absolutely out of control.
His inflammatory statements have been followed by a surge of threats against judges appointed by both political parties. The U.S. Marshals report a record 564 threats against federal judges last year. That number has roughly doubled since 2021. The situation has become so dire that Chief Justice John Roberts has weighed in twice in Trump's second term, most recently just this week.
Judges around the country work very hard to get it right, and if they don't, their opinions are subject to criticism. But personally directed hostility is dangerous, and it's got to stop.
Judges are increasingly taking precautions. In his year-end report, the administrator for the federal courts wrote that about 80% of all sitting federal judges have requested the removal of personally identifiable information from the internet. About 3/4 of judges have enrolled in a program that provides up-to-date home intrusion detection systems. Nationally, 63 facilities are undergoing courthouse hardening projects. But the risk is now something that comes with the robe.
Unfortunately, it's sort of become the order of the day.
Until recently, judges were barred from speaking out about their concerns by the Judicial Code of Ethics. But just last month, they actually changed the rules to give judges more leeway to discuss their concerns about threats and attacks. Of course, Jake, that's important because this is not just about protecting judges, but also, they say, about protecting the integrity of the rule of law.
All right, Paula Reed, thanks so much for that report. Let's talk about this with U.S. District Court Judge Esther Salas. You might recall Judge Salas was targeted at her family home in 2020 when a gunman came to her home, opened fire, killed her son Daniel, and wounded her husband Mark. And I see that beautiful picture of Daniel behind you, Judge Salas, and I know he's an inspiration to you to keep up the fight to preserve law and order in this country. We're thinking about him, and we're thinking about your loss right now. Do you think that law enforcement is taking the threats against judges seriously enough, specifically as law enforcement?
You know, I do think that the men and women who serve the U.S. Marshals are doing everything they can to protect judges. It's their number one priority. So I do think the U.S. Marshals are very concerned about these threats. And, you know, I would like to believe that the Department of Justice is as well taking it seriously. I haven't seen the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General come forward and really talk about denouncing these acts of threats against judges. But I know the men and women of the U.S. Marshals, and I have no doubt there.
It's probably impossible, generally speaking, to draw a direct line from politicians attacking judges or Supreme Court justices with their words, saying they're unpatriotic, they should be embarrassed, they're un-American, et cetera, and the threats that judges get. And in fact, there's even a term for it, stochastic terrorism, right? But like, do you agree with the idea that a lot of your fellow judges have said that the more that there is rhetoric from political leaders and media figures against judges and justices, the more the threats happen?
Wholeheartedly. I wholeheartedly agree that the inflammatory and dangerous rhetoric is exacerbating these threats, and we're getting those threats from the top down. And to see our Chief Justice just this week really talk about the dangerous rhetoric and say it has to stop I thank him. I thank our Chief Justice for coming forward and really, asking everyone involved to stop this dangerous rhetoric. I thank him. I thank the 4 judges that were on Speak Up for Justice and who had the courage to speak up and speak out against these attacks. I thank them. And of course, I thank you, because we have to continue to shed light, not heat, on this situation, and really demand more of ourselves and of our leaders when we're talking about being civil to one another, and when we're talking about criticizing opinions on the merits and not taking these personal shots at us that I think are directly, in some respects, to blame for this spike in attacks against judges. We saw Judge Meyer in Indiana shot recently. I mean, this is serious stuff, and someone I really do fear the worst here, Mr. Tapper.
You can call me Jake. Judge Esther Salas, thank you so much, and may Daniel's memory continue to be a blessing. We'll have you on again soon, and I think about Daniel all the time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and have a good night.
President Trump has called Republican Congressman Thomas Massie a disaster for the Republican Party. Now the congressman has a few choice words of his own about the candidate that Trump endorsed to get Massie out of office.
As much as we appreciate what our mechanics can do and who they are, no one looks forward to seeing the inside of an auto shop. Because if you're here, your car is too. And that means something's wrong. And likely it means an expensive repair bill. That is, unless you've called CarShield. When you call CarShield before your car breaks down, they have plans that cover up to 5,000 parts and systems of your car. Don't wait. Call CarShield today before it's too late.
Call 800-788-2415.
Explore CNN podcasts for your daily dose of news, culture, and smart storytelling. And discover the conversations shaping our world. Follow and listen to CNN podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
Wow, what is this place?
The RealReal is the destination for authenticated luxury resale. They make it simple to sell what you have so you can shop what you really want.
Can you believe my old owner paid retail for me when she could have just gone to the RealReal?
Shop and sell with the RealReal, where the fashion speaks for itself.
When my hair started to thin, I thought, am I going to have any hair left?
After I gave birth, my hair wasn't even thinning, it was gone.
When I spoke to my dermatologist, he immediately pointed me in the direction of Nutrafol.
It's 100% drug-free and clinically tested.
Within 3 months, my hair was fuller.
It's longer, it's so much thicker.
I had more scalp coverage.
It was so nice to be noticed for my hair after hiding it for so many years.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
I wonder why they call it a support bean.
I don't know, but it tastes load-bearing.
Ugh, an Orkin Pro? That's it. I'll never eat here again.
Nope. 1 star.
Orkin, the best in pests.
Whether it's your future health, your future income, or your future happiness, becoming an AARP member today can help. Join now for just $15 for your first year with automatic renewal and get a second membership free. Plus, you'll receive an insulated trunk organizer. Call or go online to join today, because the younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Exceptional design is the result of obsession. Each curve, cut, and line distilled to the essential. Thuma, where elevated design meets quality craftsmanship.
we've got to have the largest mass deportation effort in history. We're going to have the largest deportation in the history of our country. We are going to start the largest mass deportation in the history of our country because we have no choice.
In our politics lead, that was President Trump before the 2024 presidential election, but the way he sells his immigration policies could sound different ahead of the 2026 midterms. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting, quote, Trump has become convinced that some of his administration's deportation policies have gone too far, and voters don't like the term mass deportation. The president has told them he wants to see more attention on arresting bad guys and less chaos in American cities, according to people familiar with the matter. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. Let's talk about this. So Ramesh, if that's accurate and if he commits to it, I mean, he's not wrong. A Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll last month showed only 40% of the public approves of President Trump's handling of immigration. 58% disapprove. That is a change for public approval on him or disapproval. Trump obviously fired Kristi Noem as DHS secretary. Do you think that we're going to see a change not only in how he talks about this, but how ICE and CBP actually go about their jobs?
It's an open question. I think it's clear that after months of polling, the public has reacted very negatively to the way the administration has carried out its immigration policies, and there does need to be a change in those policies. But whether that is shared throughout the administration or you're still going to have infighting with the sort of maximally hawkish members of the administration insisting on a confrontational approach, I don't know if we're going to see them change.
I guess the question is, how much is Stephen Miller still going to be running the show, right? That's one of the president's top advisors, if not the top advisor on domestic policies. And he loves the mass deportation.
Yeah, that's right. He does love mass deportation. And has Trump gone and told Stephen Miller to stop mass deportations? Doesn't seem like it. We still continue to see them. Has he directed ICE to stop mass deportations? No. There was a DACA recipient that was just detained on his way to go visit his daughter in the NICU just earlier this week. We also have them going after legal immigration, people who have legal status, who follow the rules, who went about the process with the federal government, and the federal government didn't uphold their end of the bargain and now stripping their legal status away.
A lot of Afghan allies.
A lot of Afghan allies. There's Ukrainians, there's Venezuelans. And so that's hundreds of thousands of people. And so if he was really worried about that and he wanted the change, he would rescind those EOs. And there's birthright citizenship that's going to be actually up in the Supreme Court on April 1st. He could rescind that EO if he wanted to kind of stop this sort of mass deportation and go after violent criminals and not people like innocent families.
Yeah. I mean, I think nobody disagrees with the idea about the bad hombres, as he called them once. Go ahead, do that. That's not.
And I think Democrats would praise him for securing the border and going after the bad guys. It's all the other stuff where he doesn't want to take the victory lap.
Do you want to deport the worst or deport the most?
Yeah.
That's been the tension in the administration from the beginning.
Yeah, excellent way to put it. Let's turn to the fact that President Trump has endorsed a primary challenger to Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky because he feels Massie has been disloyal. Massie's out with a brand new ad about his opponent. Take a look.
Woke Eddie left the Republican Party right after President Trump won the Republican nomination. Just check his voter registration. Guess when he finally changed his registration back to the Republican Party? That's right, only after President Trump was no longer in office and Joe Biden had become president. Woke Eddie Gowrine, not just a Trump hater, a Trump traitor.
A Trump traitor endorsed by Trump. You think this might work?
I don't actually think it's going to work. I think it's a sign of desperation.
By Massie.
By Massie. I think there is plenty of time for voters in the district to learn the truth, which is that Trump is now a certified hater of Massie, and that his more recent comments on him have included the word moron and the worst. So I think that trying to make this basically dishonest plea that I'm the Trump guy, the other guy's the not Trump guy, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, he's trying to stop the bleeding in a place like Kentucky. When you have the President of the United States in a place like Kentucky, essentially coming out and saying that you're the worst, and that is not great for a district like that. And so he is essentially trying to muddy the waters and see what he can. He's like grasping at straws here. I agree with you. I don't think it works.
So there is this big government shutdown when it comes to TSA employees. It's affecting them, and it's affecting the Coast Guard and others. It's affecting a lot of American travelers. with these long lines. In the last hour, we heard Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy come on this show, warning the travel chaos is only going to get worse if this partial DHS shutdown drags on. Today, Senate Republicans are specifically blaming Democratic Senator John Ossoff of Georgia, who's up for re-election. Surprise, surprise. They posted, quote, "The Atlanta airport is in total chaos, hours-long wait times, TSA agents working without pay, spring break travelers missing their flights. All because Georgia Democrat John Ossoff refuses to fund TSA and DHS." Now, obviously, it's not just because of John Ossoff, but it is true that Senate Democrats are refusing to pass the DHS bill because they want immigration changes. They have offered fund TSA, fund Coast Guard, but Republicans say no. Do you think this can be successfully pinned on Democrats?
Right now, I don't think so, but I also don't think it's causing any political pain to Republicans. That's why it's going to persist, I'm afraid, for a while, because we're in the situation. Neither party's actually getting anything out of this shutdown, I think, but neither party's actually feeling some pain over it. If anything, maybe slightly more on the Republican side because it adds to the sort of ambient chaos that is part of the critique of Trump right now that people didn't want. But I just don't think it's enough to actually force action on the part of either party.
Do you think the Democrats, I mean, look, the Democrats, it's their shutdown. I get all the arguments, but they're the ones that refuse to fund the DHS bill. Are they feeling any pain for this at all?
Well, I think that what Democrats, I think their strategy has been really clear. And frankly, I think it's smart. Listen, ICE is funded till 2029, and they have made that clear. I think they could probably say that a bit more now. And the fact that they've put on the table that, fund TSA, fund CISA, fund all of these other parts of DHS, I think is important. I agree that I don't think that people are feeling the pain as you would a larger government shutdown. I do think that when you're talking about affordability, and if you have these stories of TSA personnel out there not being able to go afford basic things, then I think it will hurt Democrats. But at the end of the day, Republicans control everything, and I don't think your average voter understands that Democrats would be responsible for something like this when they don't control anything.
I think one point, though, that has to be made, it is crazy that TSA workers are having to pay the price for an immigration fight that has nothing to do with them.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah. It's also crazy that members of Congress continue to be paid.
I agree.
Even when they would take away paychecks from people who make $45,000 a year. And if any politician out there wants to come on the show and propose legislation to stop their own salaries during shutdowns, I will vote for that in addition to give you airtime. Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. Coming up next, a message just in from former President George W. Bush on the sudden passing of a legend in Texas, actor and martial artist Chuck Norris.
The East Tennessee Boat and Outdoor Show is coming to the Knoxville Expo Center April 10th through the 12th. If you love being on the water or exploring the outdoors, this is the place to start. You'll find everything you need to get ready for the season, from wake boats and pontoons to water sports equipment, plus outdoor accessories. Bring the family. There will be face painting and a live magic show by Pete and Chris Amusement. It's the East Tennessee Boat and Outdoor Show, April 10th through the 12th.
Introducing All There Is Live, where I talk to others about grief and loss, and you can join the conversation too.
Now streaming at cnn.com/allthereis.
I get to call someone I've looked up to a colleague.
We're two former White House correspondents with a tireless work ethic.
We're ready for whatever comes our way.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown, weekday mornings at 10 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
30 seconds.
Wake up. Breaking overnight. Catch up.
New details and more questions.
Start your mornings here.
This is a pivotal week.
CNN News Central. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on CNN and watch at 8 on the CNN app.
Hello, Rue. You owe me money.
If you make a deal with the devil, there's no turning back.
Newsnight with Abby Phillip, weeknights at 10 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
How's your shift going? It's been a lot.
Charge! Clear!
We're going to take care of you.
This is what we do.
This is the work of a cold, calculating assassin.
In a competition like this, every chef is swinging for the fences.
This is the best lineup of bakers I have ever seen.
All new, the Ultimate Baking Championship, Monday at 9 on Food Network.
When you buy a house, you're buying the neighbors.
It looks like an Osama bin Laden compound in Pakistan.
There is 6 to 8 chickens, 10 to 15 chicken, 20 chicken.
Oh, can't poop on me.
Don't talk to my child that way.
You will not talk over me.
Back off.
Arrest her!
My attorney will bury you.
The Arena with Casey Hunt, weekdays at 4 on CNN. And watch on the CNN app.
Dad, I don't need you to check on me.
I still love you.
Ow! I just want to help.
Hey, Rooster! Oh, hey there!
The kids call you Rooster?
They think I'm like my character. You're a best-selling author parents have actually heard of.
Nice washboard. This is college. You can be the Rooster if you want.
Crush it, Rooster! I want to crush it! Yeah!
CNN This Morning with Audie Cornish. Weekdays at 6 a.m. on CNN. Early Start with Rahel Solomon. Weekdays at 5 a.m. on CNN.
Our last lead start in our national lead where evacuations are in order for northern Oahu, Hawaii. A dam is at risk of, quote, imminent failure. Flash flood warnings are in effect as water levels in the dam rise. Heavy rain and flash floods have destroyed homes and forced rescues on the northern shore of the island. Officials urge residents to continue evacuations in the area. Sad news in our pop culture lead today. Action movie star Chuck Norris is dead at the age of 86. Norris was a military veteran who started training in the martial arts when he was sent to Korea, eventually earning a black belt and becoming 6-time world karate champion. Encouraged by, among others, actor Steve McQueen, Norris segged into acting. His first memorable part was in 1972's Way of the Dragon. Throughout the 70s and 80s, Norris made a name for himself as a rugged action hero in films like Good Guys Wear Black. Norris then made the switch to TV, starring in the long-running popular series Walker, Texas Ranger. Well, Norris was also a prominent supporter of conservative politicians and causes. And in fact, just a few minutes ago, former President George W. Bush released a statement about Chuck Norris's passing, which said in part, "He was a legend in Texas and beyond. It was said when Chuck Norris entered a room, he didn't turn the lights on, he turned the dark off." Chuck Norris died Thursday in what his family calls a sudden passing. May his memory be a blessing. Two big programming notes. Look for the special CNN Town Hall on the war with Iran this evening. My colleague Diana Bash will moderate the conversation that includes U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz and national security experts. And they're going to take questions from a live studio audience. That's tonight at 9 Eastern. And on the CNN app, and then, of course, that's Friday night. Coming up Sunday on State of the Union, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York, and Israeli Ambassador to the United States, Michael Leiter. That's Sunday at 9 a.m. at noon Eastern on CNN and the CNN app. I hope you enjoyed our experiment, the first hour of the show in my office. Will we do it again? Stay tuned. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky X, and on the TikTok at Jake Tapper. You can follow the show on X and Instagram at The Lead CNN. If you ever miss an episode of The Lead, you can watch the show on the CNN app. Download the CNN app. Aaron Burnett Up Front starts now.
Out front next, breaking news. A U.S. logistics base under attack, according to Iran. 3 strikes targeting the facility in Baghdad in just the past 24 hours. And just as President Trump says he's considering winding down the war. So why are more troops heading to the region? Plus, Iran's underground missile cities, dozens of elaborate sites crucial to Iran's strategy. Are U.S. strikes taking them out for good? We have a special CNN investigation on this. And our K-File is uncovering a top FEMA official has a history of sharing election conspiracy theories and even once claimed that he teleported to a Waffle House. Let's go up front. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin in for Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, we are following the breaking news. Iran targeting a U.S. facility in Iraq. Blasts near a U.S. logistics support facility in Baghdad. This is according to Iran. This is the 3rd attack on the base in just the past 24 hours. This brazen attack by Iran comes at the same time as President Trump just claimed on social media that the Pentagon is considering, quote, winding down military efforts in the Middle East. But all signs point to the military operation ramping up more, not less. Two officials tell CNN that thousands more U.S. Marines are headed to the region aboard a Navy ship. And we're learning some of the forces that are headed to the Middle East may specialize in ground missions. And while Trump has not said he's putting American troops on the ground in Iran, he may need them. CNN is learning that as the U.S. is furiously trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, an internal assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency determined Iran could potentially keep the passage shut for anywhere from 1 to 6 months. And one option that's been suggested to reopen the strait is to put Trump's troops, on Karg Island. But a source says that would be a risky mission, one that puts American lives on the line. The president today says that he believes getting the strait open is the only remaining challenge in this war.
He said the war was militarily won in Iran. What did you mean by that?
Oh, I think we've won. We've knocked out their Navy, their Air Force. We've knocked out their anti-aircraft. We've knocked out everything. We're roaming free. From a military standpoint, all they're doing is clogging up the strait. But from a military standpoint, they're finished.
So how?
And it's a situation in the strait that has the president lashing out at America's allies once again in a post calling them, quote, cowards. Shortly after that, the UK announced that it is ready to help in a major move. Britain is now allowing the U.S. to use British bases to strike Iranian forces along the Strait of Hormuz. Up to this point, the British Prime Minister had vowed not to let his nation be drawn into the war. So now, Nick Robertson is out front live in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for us tonight. Elena Treen is at the White House. Let's start with you, Nick. What is the latest that you're learning from there this evening?
Yeah, a lot of drones being fired at the east of Saudi Arabia today. There have been perhaps 10 in the past couple of hours, 40 over the past 24 hours, more or less. The east, of course, is where the majority of the oil refineries, the oil facilities are in this country. And of course, that comes on a day when this country, as others in the Gulf, are celebrating Eid, a very holy day here, and a day when people, frankly, would normally be spending it with families. We did see grandparents with parents and children in cafes and restaurants here in the capital, Riyadh. But this sort of constant drumbeat from Iran of attacks has been writ large across the whole of the Gulf again today. Kuwait bearing perhaps the worst of it there. Drones hitting an oil refinery there, taking that part of that offline. Drones also impacting a warehouse, it appeared, in Bahrain overnight. Also ballistic missiles, 4 of them, and about 26 drones aimed and intercepted above the UAE. But it's really sort of painting a picture of an area that is increasingly facing Iran's ability to continue firing weapons. And I think one sort of step that has been taken today that may not be hugely significant is that Bahrain has joined a lot of other countries, about 20 other countries, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Canada, Korea, in signing an agreement to contribute appropriate efforts to try to do something about the Strait of Hormuz. That is pretty weak language, but it does show that these countries are willing to try to do something, and Bahrain, the first GCC country to take that step.
Definitely worth noting. Thank you so much, Nick. It's really good to see you. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Elena now at the White House. Elena, I know that you've been talking to your sources there. What's the latest that you're learning about where this all is headed?
Yeah, well, if you listen to the president this afternoon and really over the last several days, Kate, you get this idea that the war is basically won. He said that today. You played that clip of him saying it's won militarily. However, it is quite a different thing that we are hearing from people inside the administration and really inside the intelligence community, particularly when it comes to this idea of, air superiority, trying to diminish and really damage Iran's stockpiles and weapons stockpiles is one thing. But the Strait of Hormuz has proven to be a much bigger and more complicated problem, and one that many of these officials tell me and our colleagues that there really is no simple solution for. We're told that they've really been furiously scrambling to see how they could prevent the strait from remaining closed for another several months. You mentioned this, but we had reported on this, a recent internal intelligence assessment. It's from the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which said that essentially Iran might have the capabilities to keep the strait closed for another 6 months, which is a huge problem for this administration if it could actually go that long. Of course, in our conversations with the Pentagon, people at the White House, they say that that is the worst case scenario. They essentially called it unacceptable, this idea that it could potentially be closed and remain closed for that long. But I will also add that, again, a lot of the people I've spoken with in the intelligence community say that there is just no easy fix for it. Part of that is because the Strait of Hormuz is some 100 miles. The Iranians have the abilities to launch projectiles and any sort of weapons from the strait at these different tankers. And then also their ability to lay mines, all of that being a major issue. Now, when you heard the president talk about it today, he essentially argued that it would be a small military maneuver. And then he later posted, Kate, on Truth Social, essentially saying that the strait is still a remaining issue. It would have to be guarded, but that he would leave it up to allies, given that the United States does not rely on the strait for its oil as much as some of these other countries do. All to say, this is very messy. There is not a clear way out when it comes to this problem. And I'd remind you, the reason it's so important is because it is tanking markets. When you look at oil prices, you're seeing them tick up higher in recent days, including here in the U.S. That is not only a military issue that this administration needs to solve for, but also an economic and political one.
Yeah, it's all the issues, that's for sure. It's great to see you, Elena. Thank you so much. Everyone's here with me. Let's talk much more about the reporting we're hearing from Nick and Elena this evening. Alex, a reminder to everyone out there that you served within the Office of the Secretary of Defense at the Pentagon. You are a combat veteran. You served in Iraq and Afghanistan. When you hear the president say, "I think we've won," he said a lot of different things. There are shades of, they call it the weave, they call it a lot of things. But when you hear him say that about this military operation, how do you see it?
I think he's speaking to a couple different audiences at once. So the we won in the timeline, some of that's for the market, some of that's for the American people. And honestly, when we're talking about the military objectives, they are actually doing quite well. So the onset of the war, there were briefings where they provided 4 clear objectives. So it was taking out the drones, the missiles, the associated industrial base, the Navy, and then the nuclear program hasn't been touched, which the president said was his primary objective. And so we'll see where that goes. They're working down, they being U.S. Central Command, what we call an air tasking order. So there's a predetermined set of targets where they're working through probably about 3 to 5 weeks overall is what we were told the mission was. But now, as we were just alluding to with the Straits, this is now mission creep. I'll call it what it is. There's now a new military objective because the president has tried strikes on Karg Island. The Iranians responded with strikes somewhere else. The Israelis hit the Pars gas field, which is the largest natural gas field in the world. Again, the Iranians responded with strikes. So they're not listening to the president's words, and it looks like we're going to have to take additional military action.
And this is, we've seen it time and again, the problem when you go into a war. It's not the objective going in. It's what you have to deal with in the midst of it, because the enemy has a strong opinion in this as well. Exactly.
Right.
Retired Army General Randy Manner is here with us as well. The president also, General, wrote that the way he put it, and we talked about it with my colleagues, is we are getting very close to meeting our objectives as we consider winding down our great military efforts. What would you want to or need to see before you think a winding down can begin? And would thousands of troops be deploying to the region if they really were close to winding down?
Two comments. The first is that I think it would be extremely courageous of the president to declare victory and to be able to allow this situation to de-escalate. And it's my blunt professional opinion that the Iranians would also start to stand down as well. It will take courage for the president to be able to do this. Secondly, the Marines coming into the area, we should not regard that necessarily as an escalation. It could be that they could be there after the fact, after hostilities end, to reinforce U.S. bases in the region, and of course to reestablish control in the consulates and the embassies, which of course the Marines have the primary responsibility for securing. So we should not look at this as boots on the ground by the Marines, and I certainly hope that does not happen, as they would be a huge target for Iran to try to identify whether they were moving by air into the region or by boat or by ship. They would be a target. So I think the president would really demonstrate immense courage if he was to declare victory and allow this to slowly or even quickly to stop. I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and I think what the general is getting at is the rhetoric to this point just has been heating up, rather than trying to, as you're saying, make a move to try to de-escalate, maybe not specifically in the battlefield, if you will, but on how this is being discussed and what he's targeting here. Let me bring in Nazila Fatih on this now. Nazila, you have family in Iran. You've been speaking with people on the ground there, and one of the complications and hard things about this is it's been very hard to have visibility truly on the ground of what people are experiencing. When you hear President Trump say we've won, how do they see it right now on the ground?
So, Kate, today was the Persian New Year. It happened to coincide with the other Eid, the Muslim Eid in the Middle East. And I spoke to Iranians, and everyone, almost everyone I spoke to was telling me that this was the worst Nowruz, the Persian New Year, that they can remember. And all they want this war to stop. They want this conflict, the intense bombardment to stop. People were telling me they haven't slept since the war broke out. They're anxious, they're traumatized. So if this is the rhetoric that is going to lead to de-escalation, they welcome it. Iran's military has definitely become weaker. If this was the objective, it's been accomplished. But the Iranian regime is still in place. The regime has become even more hardline. Every leader that has been killed has been replaced by a much more radical person. And the regime that was unpredictable has become even more unpredictable. So I totally agree that this is the time to de-escalate and start focusing on other goals.
Alex, now another change or addition into this conversation now is what the UK announced, right? Announcing that they're going to allow the U.S. to use British bases to strike Iranian missile sites and target ships in the Strait of Hormuz. It's what the president was calling for.
Yep.
It's what it seems the British Prime Minister was very hesitant to do for quite some time. What do you think of this change? Does this, if people are looking at this and say, is the war now getting bigger? Do you see it that way?
So not quite bigger in the sense, I think it is mission creep, like I was talking about earlier, in terms of a new objective. I was speaking to British officials a little earlier today to kind of get a gauge as to where they were. Prior to the conflict, the U.S. had asked for permission to use Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, a base that we flew strategic bombers out of to do bombing runs. And the British couldn't find a legal pretext to allow us to do that. They said, look, we can't get involved. The Europeans largely took the same. But it's actually the Iranian strategy that is backfiring once again that is causing this to happen. So when they decided to attack the Gulf neighbors, go after the oil and gas infrastructure, but more importantly, the civilian targets inside the countries, it provided the legal pretext for them to do defensive missions flying over the top. Also now, when they've been attacking ships and the straits and holding up global commerce, that also provided additional legal cover for the Europeans to get involved. And so they've said, okay, we're not going to allow you to fly offensive missions per se inside of Iran, but we need the straits freed up. And so while the initial military objectives are largely achieved, or getting there, at least on track, probably still a couple of weeks left to do that, the straits are still blocked. And unfortunately, I think, walking away at this point will leave with the remnants of an Iranian regime, if it stays in power, the feeling that they've won and that they can do this again and choke off global commerce. So I think it'll be very difficult for us to walk away from that in this perspective. And I think that that's the reason the president's saying at the end of that message, the last part of that was that it's dependent upon achieving the objectives, and then everybody takes over afterwards. So I don't think we're quite done yet.
General, what's your view on this, especially when the way the president was trying to present it today was that this is a small, simple military option. There's little risk for allies in helping with this. But just kind of cut through the noise on this one. Is there, in fact, little risk for these countries getting involved?
I totally disagree with the administration. There is high risk if this was to be done now, while, of course, there is extreme high levels of combat ongoing in the region. It is one thing if the United States and Israel de-escalate. Iran, I am certain, will also de-escalate. And then the straits should become passable. And that way, they would not interfere with the oil going through, which, of course, benefits them. As we know, of course, it's China as well. But remember, the rest of the things are the second-order effects that drive up the oil prices in the United States, even though our oil does not come hilltop on the mountains around the strait and fire missiles or direct fire weapons. You can hit them indirectly from anywhere. So this is physically impossible to secure in a military manner without hundreds of thousands of military being on the ground in Iran. So we should not go there. We should instead de-escalate. I appreciate very much the hardship that the Iranians are going through and many other countries in the Middle East, let alone around the world, as a result of the indirect impacts on everyone around the world. I think, again, the president would demonstrate tremendous courage to declare victory.
Nazila, give me your thoughts on this. What do you think it would take for the Iranian regime to allow the strait to reopen tonight?
I think they have realized that the Strait of Hormuz is a very powerful leverage that they have, but they can't keep it closed permanently. So I think in return for the right concessions, security guarantees, they will open it. But they want to be the winners in this negotiation as well.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. Out front for us next, a special CNN investigation into Iran's so-called missile cities, massive fortresses deep underground. And they are key to Iran's war strategy. Plus, gas prices now up in every state since the war in Iran began, yet President Trump is downplaying this spike right now.
I expected worse, actually. I thought that oil prices would go much higher when I did this.
And 48 days after Nancy Guthrie went missing, the sheriff leading the investigation is now finding his job on the line.
Slash and free. This holiday, get free products on TikTok. Join me in the TikTok Slash and Free event. Pick the gifts you want and invite friends to help slash the price to zero. And the best part, everything you win ships free. Don't miss out. Come join the fun on TikTok. Just tap the event icon on your profile and grab those free goodies together.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my new chapter. Sitcoms are back. So we've got work to do.
The best part is being written by AI.
Wow. Well, that's new. How's that? Funny, complicated, single. Don't tell my husband.
This is all hard enough!
Valerie!
Oh boy. No, she's okay. She's right.
With Kalshi, you can trade on anything, from the weather to news to even pop culture. And unlike other apps, Kalshi lets you trade against other users, not the house. Live trade during the events. Kalshi, trade on anything. New users can get a bonus when they sign up and trade.
Wow, what is this place?
The RealReal is the destination for authenticated luxury resale. They make it simple to sell what you have so you can shop what you really want.
Can you believe my old owner paid retail for me when she could have just gone to the RealReal?
Shop and sell with the RealReal, where the fashion speaks for itself.
If you know luxury,
It's not just award-winning, it's rewarding. Saatva Mattresses supports all types of sleepers. Luxury is handcrafted and assembled in American factories and brought directly to you with our complimentary in-home delivery and setup service. Which is why over 90% of customers would recommend Saatva to friends and family. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
I read somewhere that my gut can talk to my brain. I wonder what it says. Hello, brain. Thank you for making smart choices like these probiotics, especially after less smart choices like that gas station burrito. Ugh, sorry about that, buddy.
This is the moment your hair stops holding you back. You wear it down. And for the first time in a while, you like the way your part is falling. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It comes from sticking with a hair growth routine that works from the inside out. So when the flash flashes, you don't hesitate. You just enjoy the moment, because the difference isn't just in your hair. Start growing today at Nutrafol.com.
With all the vitamins and this stuff, I start every day feeling my best, ready to go.
He'll do this for hours.
The little thing we do, they love it.
Invading free radicals are everywhere. Luckily, Palm Wonderful's antioxidants help defend against them.
So where do you guys work?
We're from the satellite office.
Real life is scary. Protect yourself from free radicals with Palm.
Standoff, the FBI, Power and Paranoia premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
I think you're going to want to see this.
When the news breaks,
watch out!
This team is here to sweep up the pieces.
He got hit in the face and his toupee went.
That's why you watch this show.
Have I got news for you? Now streaming on the CNN app.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen at cnn.com/allthereis.
Welcome back to a special edition of Out Front. War in Iran. We continue to follow the breaking news. There are new satellite images now revealing the aftermath of U.S. strikes on an Iranian drone facility. Take a look at this. These images were posted by CENTCOM today, showing before and after pictures of a drone production plant in Isfahan. The U.S. says that it was manufacturing Shahed one-way attack drones, the same drones used by Iran to strike targets across the region. It comes as a new CNN investigation tonight is uncovering the depth of Iran's military infrastructure, a vast network of what they're calling missile cities, many of them hidden deep beneath the surface. Tamara Kablawi is out front.
An Iranian underground missile city buried deep inside a mountain. A show of force aimed at Iran's enemies. A contingency plan to protect its precious arsenal from being eradicated by massive bombardment. Dozens of these subterranean fortresses are spread across the country. It's proof that Tehran has been preparing for a war just like this one for years and possibly decades. It's also from these mountain bases that Iran stores its mobile missile launchers, taking them out, firing, before hiding them back into the mountain to reload and avoid detection. The US and Israel want to destroy this threat.
And just like Hamas and their tunnels, Iran has funneled decades of state resources not to their people, but into missiles and drones and proxies and buried facilities. But we are hunting them down.
We wanted to find out how. Examining satellite images from 27 underground bases, including 107 tunnels. What we found was evidence of a rapid-fire American-Israeli campaign to trap a large number of Iranian munitions underground, blocking entrances and exits to these bases. Like here, here, and here, access points to these facilities blocked. We found that the US and Israel bombed at least 77% of the tunnel entrances that we were able to review satellite images of. Here we see rockets fired from mobile launchers towed out of tunnels. The images are from propaganda video released last year. We geolocated this video to here, a large underground city with many of the access points ravaged by US and Israeli bombardment earlier this month. Here, we see huge craters surrounding a tunnel portal. Here, a destroyed rocket launcher and a reddish cloud of highly toxic rocket fuel. But less than 48 hours after the site was first bombed, evidence of Iranians already digging for access to their munitions underground. And this isn't the first time Iran's jumped to repair its underground facilities.
Tehran is completely filled with smoke.
After the 12-day war with Israel last June, Iran repaired missile production facilities, an industrial complex linked to uranium enrichment centrifuges, and subterranean medium-range missile sites, like this one, where Iran reopened access points to those munitions, again starting to repair them just 48 hours after that war ended. The US and Israel continue to score tactical successes around underground facilities, but these might be temporary solutions as Iran continues to adapt. Now, these are huge battlefield achievements by the US and Israel, heavily degrading Iran's military capability. But experts say that Iran remains resilient and has just enough munitions to continue to hit strategic positions such as oil and gas and civilian infrastructure. This adds another layer of complexity and of unpredictability to this war. Kate?
Certainly. Tamara, thank you so much. Out front with us right now is Hosroe Isfahani. He's an Iranian exile who was born and raised in Iran, worked as a journalist with the BBC. He is also the research director for the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Hosroe, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
One thing on the heels of that amazing report from Tamara, we also had a new message. The Iranian public today got a new second purported message from the new supreme leader. But yet again, he's not seen or heard, no audio, no video, not even a credible still image has really been put out. What does this tell you?
Two things. One, about this new supreme leader, Mujtaba. We are dealing with an impotent young cleric who has the charisma of a boiled potato. He is the first AI-generated supreme leader that the world has seen to itself. All the footage that state media in Iran is putting out about this man either are dated, are old photos of him, or are literally AI generated. That's the man that we are dealing with. He has zero political backing, zero political history. He has achieved nothing in his life. That's Mujtaba. Let's put him aside and get back to the actual question, what the regime is doing with these missile bases, reconstructing them. We are dealing with a death cult that forces children to pledge allegiance to a supreme leader, makes them to pledge the life of their parents. A couple of years ago, this song was made into a whole anthem by the Islamic Republic, Salute Commander, in which children were pledging the lives of their parents to the supreme leader, saying we are going to sacrifice the lives of our mothers and fathers for the supreme leader. That's the system that we are dealing with. Anything other than total obliteration or total surrender is going to be a missed opportunity in face of such a regime. And Iranians know that firsthand. I lived in that country for 3 decades. I have fought that regime for 17 years. I have watched this regime kill tens of thousands of people in my motherland. We know what this regime is about. There is one option: absolute obliteration or total surrender. Anything in between, the regime will survive, rebuild its capabilities, and strike against the Iranian people and the world.
You know, Israel today announced that it killed another top leader in Iran, the top intelligence official in Iran's paramilitary force. The Israeli Prime Minister has said that they are going after leader to weaken the regime and give the people of Iran a chance to oust that regime. Do you get a sense that that is what's happening as they're taking out leader after leader?
So here's the actual what is happening in Iran. In this military operation, the top echelon of the Islamic Republic is being constantly mowed. It's not limited to the supreme leader or a Basij commander. A couple of days ago, Ali Larijani was taken out, the architect of the mass killing that we watched in January, when tens of thousands of unarmed Iranian protesters were mowed down on the streets of Iran in cold blood. That man was the architect of that killing. But the thing is, Look at what happened during the 12-day war. When Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was hiding in a bunker, Ali Larijani and the parliament speaker Ghalibaf stepped in, stabilized the regime, allowed it to survive. Taking out these men will remove any chance for the Islamic Republic to stabilize its structure, stabilize this network of terror. At the same time, the other thing that is happening inside Iran is that the arms of the oppression of this regime, as you mentioned, Basij militia, it's not limited to leaders of this force. The intelligence that we have received is that hundreds of Basij militiamen have been killed in Israeli drone strikes, and many more are scared to even show up for work, and those who are showing up cannot be paid, they cannot receive water and food. The regime is falling apart, and the Iranians are going to make the last battle. This is the last battle for our homeland. We have been fighting for it, and this is it.
What a moment to be in right now. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Up front for us next. Chaos at America's airports, security lines at some stretching for hours, and one former TSA administrator now warning that America's security could be at risk with this. Plus, the K-File uncovering a top FEMA official's history of violent rhetoric, and even once claiming that he teleported to a Waffle House.
The car lifted up and took me where I was going, and I ended up at a Waffle House like 50 miles away from where I was.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
Capitol Hill.
What does re-examining that look like? Are you saying that that's not going to happen? What exactly are your day-to-day responsibilities?
And beyond.
And good evening from Davos, Switzerland, where President Trump just capped off a whirlwind trip. You were obviously named by President Trump.
For in-depth political coverage and analysis, watch The Source, weeknights at 9 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
People think that those that are overweight just lack self-control and self-discipline.
If I could have dieted and exercised my way out of this, I would have done it years ago.
The greatest misconception is that a GLP-1 is the easy way out.
I just needed help, and that's what Mochi gave me.
My Mochi doctors understand what it's like to deal with obesity and to live with it your whole life.
Mochi just takes a mental load off of you.
They know